Hey there, and welcome to Taste on Tuesday. And in this segment, essentially, I just go through what my tastes are in board games. Every week, I'm highlighting a specific mechanic or theme I see in a game that I really enjoy. And then I just go through and kind of share why I enjoy it. And sometimes I'll be critiquing the genre a little bit as well, which will definitely happen today. So we're going to hop in and we're going to look at historical co-ops. So if you know me, if you've watched the channel at all, I talk about co-ops all the time. I love the genre. Anytime that we can get together as a group, come together and play something where we're on the same side, trying to figure out a puzzle collectively, I am one happy camper. And so I wanted to look at co-ops, but more specifically, I wanted to look at the ones that attempt to do something historical in nature, something that teaches or provides some form of education regarding some portion of history in the world. There's a lot of games out there like that, and I personally enjoy cooperatives that are historical much more than competitive historical games. And so to start out with, I have here a picture of the Grizzled. As you can see, this is the French version. But the Grizzled is one of the most interesting small card games I've played, and that really comes back to the intentions of the designer. So if you look at war games traditionally, whether they're cooperative or competitive, it's all about the fighting. It's about how can I tactically outmaneuver or outfight my opponent? How can I bring their demise? How can I take over? Well, the designer of the Grizzled was a World War I veteran, and he hated this glorification of fighting and warfare all the time. And so he set out to make a board game that took kind of the positives of, I guess you could call it the positives. There's not a ton of positives in warfare, but it brought together this idea of a group collectively going through these traumatic events together and holding one another up throughout the experience. As you can see here in the picture, he's focusing on the camaraderie between soldiers, and then he also focuses on kind of the horrible mental side effects that come along with that. So you start out and you select somebody. Here's the 6 characters that the game starts out with. I believe there's an expansion. I don't know if it adds any characters. I haven't played the expansion. I've enjoyed the base game so much I haven't really seen a reason to go get that. But that said, you pick one of these characters, and that's who you're going to be playing throughout the game. I love the names too. There's Lazaire and Félix and Gaston, and so you're going to be coming together, and you're going to be trying to get across these different trials. The end goal right here, signified by this dove, is peace. Dove is kind of a universal sign of peace, and hopefully at the end of warfare, some sort of peace agreement comes to pass. On the other side here, you see this monument, and it has the names. Here's our good friend Gaston at the bottom here, but all 6 of the names are the players that you could potentially be, and that means that you weren't successful in war, and you passed, and you weren't able to see peace in the future, which is ultimately how you lose the game. And so throughout the game, there are going to be different threats that come out. There's things like, oh no, there's going to be you hear that there's gas being used, whether it's mustard gas or something else. There's a poisonous, noxious gas being used, and it's starting to rain. If you look in the background, the weather is also a threat. Here, this whistle symbolizes being called to the front lines. These bullets are the sounds of gunshots, and so you're going to be going into war trying to get past these specific challenges, and sometimes they're going to result in what are called hard knocks. So here you see a trauma, and it's the snow. So maybe somebody in your team maybe he lost his best friend in the snow, and now anytime they enter into a battle in the snow, he has he has more trauma related to that, and it's going to have negative effects on the gameplay. Here, maybe you're demoralized, and that's also going to affect the game. Ultimately, you're going to try and eliminate the threats as much as possible, but when everything becomes too much, you go back to camp, and you go get some coffee, and you try and lend support to the other people in your group. Really, this game's fascinating. I love the way that they take something historical, World War I, something that there's been plenty of games about, probably not nearly as many as World War II, but and they kind of flip the narrative on its head. Instead of trying to fight, you're trying to survive. Instead of being focused on eliminating someone else, you're looking at coming together. And it invites you into a very unique cooperative experience in ways that I don't know if a non-historical game could. Another great example, and now we're jumping ahead to World War II, of a great cooperative game is Black Orchestra. And I love that this one is co-op. So essentially, the designers of this game looked at all the different groups that were trying to assassinate Hitler during his time in rule and made them all playable characters. My personal favorite is the fact that Dietrich Bonhoeffer is a playable character. I mentioned this before, I have a master's in religion. Dietrich Bonhoeffer was a pastor and a scholar who was in America teaching at universities and decided that he had to go back to Germany to be with his people and to fight for his people in Germany. And the whole time, being a Christian and being a theologian, he was constantly wondering if him joining a group of individuals to assassinate somebody was the right thing to do. Here you have somebody like Hitler that's looking to assassinate all these people, essentially, or I shouldn't say assassinate, I should say murder. And he's in this group saying, no, we need to eliminate the threat of Hitler. We need to kill someone. And it's not often you hear pastors talking like that, right? So he has this huge ethical dilemma, and the fact that he's included in this game is amazing, in my opinion. But you are venturing around German-controlled areas, and you are trying to essentially gain the materials you need to, and then you're trying to get where Hitler is, and then eliminate Hitler. It's also kind of an alternative history thing, as we know. None of these groups were successful, but it's definitely interesting to assume this role, and I think this game particularly works well as a co-op. Some would say, oh, this should be a one versus many game, but who wants to play Hitler? And if somebody does want to play Hitler, how poorly could that end up being construed by the end of the game? It's just areas like this where you're diving into history, where it affected so many people, and so many people were the Holocaust killed millions, and so to say you wanted to play or be the leader of that, I think it would cause at least me an ethical dilemma. I don't think I would want to be playing Hitler, and so personally I think this works great for a cooperative title. I am a little disappointed though, when you're dealing with these sorts of sensitive materials, it's very easy to make the wrong move. And in this case, I think Game Salute, the publishing company, made a huge mistake. They have in the box, they have this card. It says, "We killed Hitler," and then it has this little advertisement for Black Orchestra. And they say, hey, when you win the game, take a picture of your group with this card and post it on social media. This is unethical. To celebrate it in this type of way, I think does a huge disservice, especially to all the work somebody like Dietrich Bonhoeffer was putting in during this time, really contemplating whether or not this was even a good thing to kill Hitler, whether or not to venture forward. And here, Game Salute has decided to use this as some sort of marketing strategy to sell more copies of a game. And I think that really downplays the strong historical nature of this game. I wonder how the designer feels about this, or if maybe this was their idea. I can't see that though. They paid so much attention to detail throughout the game that this just doesn't. This seems more of a cash grab move. And when I saw this in the box, I was really disappointed in Game Salute and that they would put this in there. It's still a game that's in my collection, but this is definitely the part of the game that just really hit me the wrong way. And so another game that has the opportunity to do something disastrous like this, that had an opportunity to fail on all fronts, in regard to how things were being discussed and portrayed through gameplay, is a game called Freedom by Academy Games. Freedom: The Underground Railroad. This happens to be one of my favorite games. If it's not in my top 10, it's definitely in my top 15. I absolutely love this game. And what you're doing in Freedom is you are helping to essentially get slaves to evacuate America, or the United States of America, into Canada. So at the time, if you're unaware, if you were a slave from the South, and you escaped to the North, even though you were in free land in the North, if a slave catcher were to come by or to find you in the North, they would send you back down south. So the goal was to get people to Canada, because if they got to Canada, then the slave catchers that are going around the North looking for individuals would not be able to call you back into the country. So that was the goal there. And this is another game that I think does a great job. Here we have a conductor. This is one of the characters you can play as a conductor for the Freedom for the Underground Railroad. My apologies. But another thing this game does a great job of is it's cooperative. So that means nobody has to play the slave catchers. Once again, looking at Black Orchestra and Hitler, I think the slave catchers, that's essentially in my opinion, that's kind of the same thing, if not even worse. Assuming that role and trying to catch people, I think it would downplay the significance of this history. And so by making this game cooperative, you have everybody at the table looking for a common goal to find a way to get the slaves from the South into Canada. But not only that, you don't only have to get all of these people from down south up to the north in Canada, but you also have to raise support. You have to change the narrative around slavery. So you are working to get campaigns to finance a movement to change the opinions of the American people. And I find that captivating. I find that extremely interesting. And in a spot where Academy Games could have gone so wrong, here we have a game board that's being played. I think this was a flawless execution. So what you have here is the slaves are portrayed by wooden cubes. I think this is a great idea, rather than having like small miniatures or something like that, simply because being such a tough topic and such a something that's requires so much thought and engagement, the game is immersive enough. It might have put it over the edge having realistic people. And then I love the decision that they didn't paint these cubes. They left them natural. They could have made so many bad decisions in deciding what color to paint these cubes. And so by leaving them natural, I think it recognizes the humanity of the people. And the slave catchers here are these pillars, and they're painted up. They stand out like a sore thumb on the map. They're easily identifiable, and they look foreign. They don't look like they belong. And I think that's really important to the narrative of this game. When you look at them, you you see, oh, this thing seems strange. It's not the pastel colors of the board. It's inhumane simply by the design of it. And to do that is incredibly powerful, in my opinion. And so that covers it. Those are three of my favorite historical cooperative games. If you have any favorite co-ops, put them in the comments below. If I missed something or you want to challenge me on something that I said here, please feel free. This channel is meant for conversation. It's meant for discussion. I would love to hear your thoughts. And I'm excited to hear what you have to say. So that's Tastes on Tuesday. Have a good one, everyone.